that Americans who make more than $250,000 a year pay their fair share of taxes. As an example of the absurdity of the current situation, just as an example, last year the CEO of Apple made over $700 million in total compensation. Mr. Lawson, what impact would raising the retirement age to 70 years of age have on workers in this country?
So billions of dollars in a new relief plan will provide stimulus checks to millions of people. $100 stimulus checks will be going out as soon as possible, and especially this month. The Illinois budget has been signed, sealed, and delivered over a month before the usual adjournment date. The Illinois governor and Democratic lawmakers celebrated the $46 billion budget this week. Leaders from the majority party claim Illinois is the strongest financial position in a generation. While the spending plan makes significant investments in education, human services, and public safety, many people will notice decisions made to address financial obligations. Democrats said their plan creates a $444 million surplus for general funds, and it will be the second straight fiscal year with a budget surplus. Their budget uses $2.7 billion in federal funds to pay off a chunk of the $4.5 billion of debt in the state's unemployment insurance trust fund. It will also contribute to $1 billion to the rainy day fund to help Illinois in any future emergencies. Democrats put a combined $500 million toward pension obligations, and the governor said, "These are just some of the kind of priorities that we can invest in when our state is governed responsibly, with a working focus on working families and those who have been left out and behind." Many people noted that the 2023 plan prioritizes children in their communities. One of the key features is a $1.8 billion family tax relief package. It suspends the state's 1% grocery tax for a year and freezes the gas tax for 6 months. The tax relief plan also provides $520 million for a one-time property tax rebate of up to $300 per household. The Senate Democrat Michael Hastings told reporters, "We are slowly recovering from this crisis. It is crucial that we prioritize families and provide them with much-needed help." Democrats included around $685 million in tax rebate checks for individual filers making under $200,000, and joint filers make up to $400,000. Those checks will be $50 per person and $100 for up to 3 children per family. The tax relief plan also permanently expands the Illinois Earned Income Tax Credit from 18% to 20% of the federal earned tax credit. The expansion creates first-time eligibility for low-income workers, 18 to 24 years old, without children, and adults 65 and older. Although Republicans argue most of the relief in this budget is nothing more than a campaign tool for the Pritzker, for the governor and the Democratic Party, the majority leader of Chicago released a statement saying, "We are trying to lift up all families and all businesses. We're trying to grow businesses and we're trying to create more jobs." Now, many lawmakers are working on getting more relief out to families. The child tax credit expanded by the president in 2021 also says that since the payments from the plan stopped, families are struggling to feed their families. Nearly half of the people who received the child tax credit say it is difficult to feed their families since the payment stopped, and more than 9% of families said that they are struggling to make ends meet. What are your thoughts on this, everybody? Should President Biden do something about this? Tell me what you think in the comments below.
This legislation will deliver on a promise we made as a country to take care of our servicemen and women, both when they deploy and when they come home. The Heath Robinson Act will provide access to health care and benefits for millions of veterans who are sick from illnesses connected with toxic exposures. When we send our warfighters into harm's way, it is with the understanding that we will have their back. When they come home bearing physical, mental, or invisible wounds of war, we care for those wounds. Toxic wounds should not be treated differently. John Buckley, he's a retired U.S. Army colonel from Andover, Kansas, told me, and I quote him, "Our soldiers were put into dangerous situations in Iraq and Afghanistan, and many who suffered from their wounds or made the ultimate sacrifice have been cared for by our nation. Unfortunately, many, too, have been overlooked and ignored, especially those who are suffering from injuries after having reoccurring and prolonged exposure to toxic fumes, burn pits, and other environmental hazards." This legislation is designed to address what the retired colonel told me. Another Army colonel, this one from Leavenworth, Kansas, Pat Proctor, who served in Iraq and Afghanistan, shared that many of the men and women he served with are facing health challenges from being exposed to toxins while deployed. And he said, I quote, there is no telling how many of us will be impacted as we get older. I know many of our veterans live with the lingering fear will the toxic exposures from their service catch up with them and leave them with a debilitating disease?
Senator Van Hollen. Senator Scott.
Thank you, Chairman Sanders. There are few things more important than protecting and preserving America's fundamental safety net programs, specifically Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. As we all have seen, career politicians in Washington have ignored them for decades, putting them at an incredible risk. Some have even advocated to cut spending for these programs. President Biden is part of that crowd. In fact, Chairman, you focused heavily on Joe Biden's attacks on Social Security and Medicare during your campaign for president in 2020. Your vocal criticism of President Biden's record of attacking Social Security and Medicare is how I know you agree with me that spending cuts on these programs have no business being entertained here in the U.S. Senate. I'm glad we're talking about these programs today, and I want to thank you for holding this hearing today. Social Security is projected to run out in 12 or 13 years. Medicare Part A will begin to run out in just 4 years. Medicaid costs continue to skyrocket. It's becoming a bigger and bigger part of the federal budgets. It's clear that what we're doing is not working, so I think we all could agree it's time to act. I propose that Congress regularly review all these programs. Of course, some of my colleagues and some of the people testifying today have decided to lie about what I've been proposing. So let's be clear. I'm never going to support cuts to Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. And outside of Joe Biden, I don't know too many other folks in Washington that want to see these programs be cut or go away either. Some of the panelists may not know that Congress regularly reviews essential programs and functions of the federal government and should regularly review essential programs and functions of the federal government. As you know, we don't even vote on Social Security and on Medicare, which makes no sense. For 61 consecutive years, Congress has successfully passed the National Defense Authorization Act. The NDA sets the budget for the entire Department of Defense. It is a critical series of must-pass national security and defense budget laws that Congress has never failed to approve, not even once. Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid are no different. If we want these programs to survive and further to avoid any cuts to benefits, we need to act today.
As a former chair and longtime member of the Senate Veterans Committee, one of my highest priorities is to make certain that every veteran in this country, people who have put their lives on the line to defend us, get the quality health care and benefits that they have deserved. This is an important piece of legislation, and I want to congratulate Senator Tester, chair of the committee, and Ranking Member Moran for their hard work on this. This legislation will improve health care, research, and resources for veterans who are exposed to deadly toxic substances and environmental hazards, including open air burn pits during their military service. This legislation will finally recognize and treat